How did you survive for 10 years working with Donald Trump?
Mark, it's been an incredible experience, and it's a very humbling thing to be the first employee hired to be part of the campaign, to believe in him when most people told me I'd never work in politics again, to see his rise. Look, Donald Trump is a political phenomenon. We know that. We know that he got into this race against in 2015, 2016, an incredible field. And I always equated it to being on an incredible racehorse, being the jockey of a Triple Crown winner. You let him run. You don't tell Donald Trump how to do things. You let him do it. When he asks you to do something, you find a way to get it done because his instincts are incredible. And look, like every candidate, like every relationship, there are ups and downs. But I have now had the chance to be part of three presidential campaigns with him, seen the ups and downs, and seen him transform the way America operates in the White House. And so part of it is being close, but not too close. When you're the middle of that circle, everyone's taking shots at you. So today, Mark, you can see I'm here in my home in New Hampshire. I'm blessed to continue to have the same home I've been in since before I met Donald Trump. My family still likes me. So part of it is being around, but not being around too much.
Yeah, and one of the things you alluded to is letting Trump be Trump. And often he has brought you in and back in when people around him are not letting Trump be Trump. That's a good phrase, and I think I've heard you use it. What does it mean? What does it mean to let Trump be Trump as a practical matter?
Well, Mark, when you think about, before Donald Trump got into politics, he was incredibly successful in real estate or in television or in being a New York Times bestselling author. So, letting Donald Trump be who he is, not trying to change him, to mold him to be what a typical politician was. And you remember this because you covered that 15-16 campaign so intimately. Donald Trump didn't go to 99 counties in Iowa that every other candidate had always done. What he said was, look, I'm going to do 8 or 10 counties and people can come see me. He didn't do all 10 counties in New Hampshire. What he said was, let's go to the big counties. Let's bring the people to me so we can have these massive events. And he fundamentally transformed the way people campaigned, and it played out to be in his favor. And what he really did in that campaign in 15 and 16 was he ran for governor of 3 states, Iowa, New Hampshire, and South Carolina. And by the time we hit Nevada, he had won 3 out of the first 4 primaries. He finished second, obviously, in Iowa. You remember the night very vividly. But he did something different. He brought the crowds to him. And when we tried to do those small, intimate gatherings that New Hampshire and Iowa are so famous for, it didn't work because of his celebrity status. So he fundamentally transformed the way presidential campaigns were run that cycle.
What do you think is still misunderstood about him? Not necessarily about the media, because that's a long list, but in the general public, what's something you know about him that you think people still don't quite get?
I don't think people understand how generous Donald Trump is, how magnanimous he is in private, how gracious he is, how much people have respect for him because of the things that will never, ever be done or told. He doesn't do it for media. He does it because it's the right thing to do, whether it's paying for funerals for people who can't afford them, or just recently I heard a story, which is not a public one, but he helped someone who was in a financial crisis, and he didn't do it because he thought he would get notoriety out of it. He did it because it was the right thing to do. It was a friend of his who was having a financial hardship, and he went out and bailed that person out. So, that generosity, the magnanimousness of Donald Trump, the self-deprecating nature. Look, I was on Air Force One with Donald Trump one day, and he received a phone call. One of his media people received a phone call so many years ago, and they didn't return the call. So the outlet called Donald Trump, and he said, "What? Do you think I'm too big of a deal to return a phone call?" I said, "Sir, by definition, you're a big deal. You're the president of the United States." He said, "Corey, I'm never too big to return a phone call." And what people don't recognize about Donald Trump sometimes is, even though he is the president of the United States, he's a people person who responds to people, and you've seen it against all these campaigns. The media picks up the phone and talks to him, and that's what sets him apart from so many other politicians who shelter themselves and hide behind their advisors.
All right, next time you talk to him, remind him he owes me a call.
I will.
2015, you and I both took him seriously, and you were one of the few people in your profession who did. I was one of the few people in my profession did, and I think basically the same reason. We saw not only that he was gifted as a political athlete, but we saw that he was talking about issues that really resonated, that both parties, particularly the Democratic Party, but in some cases the Republican Party, were ignoring. How did you see him improve as a candidate in 2016 over the course of the campaign?
Mark, you remember that golden escalator ride when many people didn't even know what he was going to announce back in June of 2015. And then he came down, and what he did is he touched the third rail on that particular day. That day he announced, he touched the third rail, and what he said was, illegal immigration. Some, I assume, are good people, but many are not. And that really set off Hillary Clinton, and it really caused him to propel himself to the front of the line because the Republicans weren't talking about the issue of illegal immigration. And if you go back and you look at what Donald Trump had been saying for, in some cases, decades, America was being taken advantage of. Illegal immigrants weren't the course of the future. We have to do better trade deals. What I saw him do over the course of that 16 campaign, and now what he does incredibly well, is he listens, he proposes something. Hey, should we ban all Muslims coming into the country? If you remember that in 2016, it was a talking point that he gave in South Carolina. And he listened to a whole bunch of people, and then he went out and made his own decision. And some of the issues that he continues to address now, whether it's tariffs or trade negotiations or illegal immigration or closing the border, are vetted through his process of asking a whole bunch of people the same questions and then formulating his answer and then giving those responses to the media. I've seen him get better and better and better. And what he's gotten very good at this time as the president that he wasn't so good at in the first campaign was staying on message. When he's on a particular topic in the White House and he's giving a press conference and someone asks something off topic, he says, that's not what we're here to discuss. Let's talk about that later. He didn't have that discipline in 2016, but he's incredibly disciplined now on it.
Think about this. What if you could delay your next 2 mortgage payments? That's right. Imagine putting those 2 payments in your pocket and finally getting a little breathing room. It's possible when you call the good folks at American Financing today. If you're feeling stretched by those everyday expenses, the cost of groceries or gas, the bills piling up, you are not alone. Most Americans are putting these expenses on credit cards, and there does not seem to be any way out once you start that. American Financing, though, can show you how to use your home's equity to pay off your debt. You need to call American Financing today before you get to the point where you can't make those payments. Their salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you restructure their loans and consolidate debt, all without any upfront fees. And their customers are saving an average, get this, of $800 a month. That's like a $10,000 a year raise. It's fast, it's simple, and it could save your budget this summer. So call now before it's too late. 866-886-2026. Again, that's 866-886-2026. Or you can visit AmericanFinancing.net/next.